Hello, and welcome to the TaBNWNE Wikipedia News Edition. On 5th episode of Season 2 is Ferrari.
Ferrari S.P.A. is an Italian luxury sports car manufacturer based in Maranello, Italy.
Founded by Enzo Ferrari, 1898 to 1988, in 1939, from the Alfa Romeo Racing Division as Auto Vio Costruzioni. The company built its first car in 1940 and produced its first Ferrari dash car in 1947.
Fiat S.p.A. acquired 50% of Ferrari in 1969 and expanded its stake to 90% in 1988.
In October 2014, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles FCA announced its intentions to separate Ferrari S.p.A. from FCA. As of the announcement, FCA owned 90% of Ferrari.
The separation began in October 2015 with a restructuring that established Ferrari NV, a company incorporated in the Netherlands, as the new holding company of the Ferrari S.p.A. group. And the subsequent sale by FCA of 10% of the shares in an IPO and concurrent listing of common shares on the New York Stock Exchange.
Through the remaining steps of the separation, FCA's interest in Ferrari's business was distributed to shareholders of FCA, with 10% continuing to be owned by Piero Ferrari.
The spin-off was completed on the 3rd of January 2016. Throughout its history, the company has been noted for its continued participation in racing, especially in Formula One, where it is the oldest and most successful racing team, holding the most Constructors' Championships, 16, and having produced the highest number of Drivers' Championship wins, 15.
Ferrari road cars are generally seen as a symbol of speed, luxury, and wealth.
William! That's his clothes!
Ferrari cars are built at the 165,000 square meter, 16.5 hectare Maranello factory.
In 2014, Ferrari was rated the world's most powerful brand by Brand Finance.
As of 2021, Ferrari is the 10th largest car manufacturer by market capitalization with $52.21 billion. Enzo Ferrari was not initially interested in the idea of producing road cars when he formed TaBNWNE Ferrari in 1929 with headquarters in Modena.
Whoa!
TaBNWNE Ferrari literally means Ferrari stable and is usually used to mean Team Ferrari.
What are you doing? Oh my gosh.
Ferrari bought, repaired, and fielded Alfa Romeo racing cars for gentleman drivers, functioning as the racing division of Alfa Romeo.
In 1933, Alfa Romeo withdrew its in-house racing team and TaBNWNE Ferrari took over as its works team. Thus TaBNWNE received Alfa's Grand Prix cars of the latest specifications and fielded many famous drivers such as TaBNWNE, Ferrari, and Chilvarzi.
Yeah, right. Damn, guys, that's dangerous!
In 1938, Alfa Romeo again brought its racing operation in-house, forming Alfa Corse in Milan and hired Enzo Ferrari as manager of the new racing department, thereby disbanding the Scuderia Ferrari. In September 1939, Ferrari left Alfa Romeo under the provision he would not use the Ferrari name in association with races or racing cars for at least 4 years.
A few things
A few days later he founded Autovio Costruzione, with headquarters in the facilities of the old Scuderia Ferrari.
The new company ostensibly produced machine tools and aircraft accessories.
In 1940, Ferrari produced a racing car, the Tipo 815, based on a Fiat platform.
It was the first Ferrari car and debuted at the 1940 Mille Miglia, but due to World War II it saw little competition.
In 1943, the Ferrari factory moved to Maranello, where it has remained ever since.
The factory was bombed by the Allies and subsequently rebuilt, including works for road car production.
Forget you work for the fucking cops? I won! Fuck you! Forget you work for the fucking cops? Run, motherfucker!
Wow, very unimaginable. When the system freezes, it just stops at the amazing world of Gumball's intro. I cannot believe this. I am really speechless. Okay, I guess it just take it to me to get another component repair. Welp, my component is fixed. Time to boot up. What? This color didn't even fix. I thought this could have been repaired. Whatever.
Welcome back. Anyways, we'd like to apologize once again because of the technical and graphics problems that just caused. We're sorry for the inconvenience.
Anyways, let's just continue.
The first Ferrari badge car was the 1947 125S, powered by a 1.5L V12 engine. Enzo Ferrari reluctantly built and sold his automobiles to fund Scuderia Ferrari. The Scuderia Ferrari name was resurrected to denote the factory racing cars and distinguish them from those fielded by customer teams. In 1960, the company was restructured as a public corporation under the name SEFACSTA, Società Esercizio Fabbriche Automobili e Corse. Early in 1969, Fiat took a 50% stake in Ferrari.
An immediate result was an increase in available investment funds, and work started at once on a factory extension intended to transfer production from Fiat's current plant of the Ferrari engine Fiat Dino.
New model investment further up in the Ferrari range also received a boost. In 1988, Enzo Ferrari oversaw the launch of the Ferrari F40, the last new Ferrari launched before his death later that year.
In 1989, the company was renamed Ferrari S.P.A.
From 2002 to 2004, Ferrari produced the Enzo, their fastest model at the time, which was introduced and named in honor of the company's founder, Enzo Ferrari.
It was to be called the F60, continuing on from the F40 and F50, but Ferrari was so pleased with it, they called it the Enzo instead.
It was initially offered to loyal and recurring customers, each of the 399 made, minus the 400th, which was donated to the Vatican for charity, at a price tag of $650,000 apiece. Equivalent to £400,900. On 15 September 2012, 964 Ferrari cars worth over $162 million, £99.95 million, attended the Ferrari Driving Days event at Silverstone Circuit and paraded around the Silverstone Circuit, setting a world record. Ferrari's former CEO and chairman, Luca di Montezemolo, resigned from the company after 23 years, who was succeeded by Amedeo Feliza, and finally, on 3 May 2016, Amedeo resigned and was succeeded by Sergio Marchant, CEO and chairman of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, Ferrari's parent company.
In July 2018, Marchant was replaced by board member Luis Camilleri as CEO and by John Elkann as chairman.
On 29 October 2014, the FCA Group, resulting from the merger between manufacturers Fiat and Chrysler, announced the split of its luxury brand, Ferrari.
Whoa!
The The aim was to turn Ferrari into an independent brand. 10% of the stake would be sold in an IPO in 2015.
Ferrari officially priced its initial public offering at $52 a share after the market closed on 20 October 2015. On 10 December 2020, CEO Louis Camilleri announced that he will step down as CEO and Chairman Jean A.K.A. will step into the interim CEO role until a permanent successor is selected. On 9 June 2021, the company announced the appointment of Benedetto Vigna from Geneva-based ST Microelectronics as its next CEO starting September. Since the company's beginnings, Ferrari has been involved in motorsport, competing in a range of categories including Formula One and sports car racing through its Scuderia Ferrari sporting division as well as supplying cars and engines to other teams and for one make race series. 1948 AC815 was the first racing car to be designed by Enzo Ferrari, although it was not badged as a Ferrari model. Scuderia Ferrari has participated in several classes of motorsport, though it is currently only officially involved in Formula One.
Whoa!
It is the only team to have competed in the Formula One World Championship continuously since its inception in 1950.
Jose Froilan Gonzalez gave the team its first F1 victory at the 1951 British Grand Prix. Alberto Ascari gave Ferrari its first Drivers' Championship a year later.
Ferrari is the oldest team in the championship and the most successful. The team holds nearly every Formula One record.
As of 2014, the team's records include 15 World Drivers' Championship titles, 16 World Constructors' Championship titles, 221 Grand Prix victories, 6,736.27 points, 679 podium finishes, 207 pole positions, and 230 fastest laps in 890 Grand Prix contested.
Of the 19 tracks used in 2014, 8 have lap records set by the F2004, with a further 3 set by the F2003 GA, F2008 and F10.
Ferrari drivers include Tazio Nuvolari, Jose Froilan Gonzalez, Juan Manuel Fangio, Alberto Ascari, Luigi Chinetti, Eugenio Castellani, Maurice Trintignant, Wolfgang von Trips, Phil Hill, Olivier Gendebien, Mike Hawthorne, Peter Collins, Giancarlo Baghetti, Ricardo Rodriguez, Chris Amon, John Surtees, Lorenzo Bandini, Ludovico Scarfiati, Jackie Hicks, Mario Andretti, Clary Gazzoni, Niki Lauda, Carlos Ruderman, Jody Scheckter, Gilles Villeneuve, Didier Pironi, Patrick Tambay, Rene Arnauts, Michel Alboreto, Gerhard Berger, Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Gino Lizzi, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Rubens Barrichello, Felipe Massa, Kimi Räikkönen, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr. At the end of the 2006 season, the team courted controversy by continuing to allow Marlboro to sponsor them after they, along with the other F1 teams, made a promise to end sponsorship deals with tobacco manufacturers.
A 5-year deal was agreed, and although this was not due to end until 2011, in April 2008 Marlboro dropped their on-car branding on Ferrari.
In addition to Formula One, Ferrari also entered cars in sports car racing, the two programs existing in parallel for many years. In 1949, Luigi Chinetti drove a 166 into Ferrari's first win in motorsports, the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Ferrari went on to dominate the early years of the World Sports Car Championship, which was created in 1953, winning the title 7 out of its first 9 years.
When the championship format changed in 1962, Ferrari earned titles in at least one class each year through to 1965, and then again in 1967.
Ferrari would win one final title, the 1972 World Championship of Makes before Enzo decided to leave sports car racing after 1973. In the last year, Ferrari to concentrate solely on Formula One.
During Ferrari's seasons of the World Sports Cars Championship, they also gained more wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, with a factory team earning their first in 1954.
Another win would come in 1958, followed by 5 consecutive wins from 1960 to 1964.
Luigi Canetti's North American racing team, NART, would take Ferrari's final victory at Le Mans in 1965. Although Scuderia Ferrari no longer participated in sports cars after 1973, they have occasionally built various successful sports cars for privateers.
These include the 512 TaBNWNE in the 1970s, the 333 ST, which won the IMSA GT Championship in the 1990s, and currently the 458 GT2 and GT3, which are currently winning championships in their respective classes.
Throughout its history, Ferrari has supplied racing cars to other entrants, aside from its own works Scuderia Ferrari team. In the 1950s and 60s, Ferrari supplied Formula One cars to a number of private entrants and other teams.
One famous example was Tony van der Velde's team, which raced the Finwall Special, modified Ferraris before building their own Van Wall cars.
The North American racing team's entries in the final 3 rounds of the 1969 season were the last occasions on which a team other than Scuderia Ferrari entered a World Championship Grand Prix with a Ferrari car. Ferrari supplied cars complete with V8 engines for the A1 Grand Prix series from the 2008-09 season.
The car was designed by Rory Byrne and is styled to resemble the 2004 Ferrari Formula One car.
Ferrari currently runs a customer GT program for a racing version of its 458 and has done so for the 458's predecessors, dating back to the 355 in the late 1990s.
Such private teams as the American Risi Competizione and Italian AF Corse teams have been very successful with Ferrari GT racers over the years.
This car, made for endurance sports car racing to compete against such racing versions of the Audi R8, McLaren MP4, 12C, and BMW Z4, E89, has proven to be successful, but not as successful as its predecessor, the F430.
The Ferrari Challenge is a one-make racing series for the Ferrari 458.
The FXX is not road legal and is therefore only used for track events. The first vehicle made with a Ferrari name was the 125S.
Only 2 of this small 2-seat sports/racing V12 car were made.
In 1949, the 166 Inter was introduced, marking the company's significant move into the Grand Touring road car market.
The first 166 Inter was a 4-seat, 2+2 Berlinetta coupe with bodywork designed by Carrozzeria Touring Superleggera.
Road cars quickly became the bulk of Ferrari sales. The early Ferrari cars typically featured bodywork designed and customized by independent coach builders such as Pininfarina, Scaglietti, Zagato, Vignale and Bertone. The original road cars were typically 2-seat front-engine V12s.
This platform served Ferrari very well through the 1950s and 1960s.
In 1968, the Dino was introduced as the first two-seat rear mid-engine Ferrari.
The Dino was produced primarily with a V6 engine, however, a V8 model was also developed.
This rear mid-engine layout would go on to be used in many Ferraris of the 1980s, 1990s and to the present day.
Current road cars typically use V8 or V12 engines, with V8 models making up well over half of the marque's total production.
Historically, Ferrari has also produced flat 12 engines. For a time, Ferrari built 2+2 versions of its mid-engine V8 cars.
Although they looked quite different from their two-seat counterparts, both the GT4 and Mobile were closely related to the 308 GTV.
Ferrari entered the mid-engine 12-cylinder fray with a Berlinetta Boxer in 1973.
The later Testarossa, also mid-engine 12 cylinders, remains one of the most popular and famous Ferrari road cars of all time.
The company has also produced several front-engine 2+2 cars, culminating in the recent V12 model Lusso and V8 models Roma, Portofino and Lusso T.
The California is credited with initiating the popular current model line of V8 front-engine 2+2 Grand Touring performance sports cars.
Starting in the early 2010s, with a LaFerrari, the focus was shifted away from the use of independent coach builders to what is now the standard, Ferrari relying on in-house design, from the Centro-style Ferrari, for the design of all its road cars. In the 1950s and 1960s, clients often personalized their vehicles as they came straight from the factory.
This philosophy added to the mystique of the brand.
Every Ferrari that comes out of Maranello is built to an individual customer specification.
In this sense, each vehicle is a unique result of a specific client's desire.
Ferrari formalized this concept with its earlier Carrozzeria Scaglietti program.
The options offered here were more typical, such as racing seats, rear-view cameras, and other special trim.
In late 2011, Ferrari announced a significant update of this philosophy.
The tailor-made program allows clients to work with designers in Maranello to make decisions at every step of the process.
Through this program, almost any trim, any exterior color, or any interior material is possible.
The program carries on the original tradition and emphasizes the idea of each car being unique.
The 1984-88 GTO may be considered the first in the line of Ferrari supercars.
This pedigree extends through the Enzo Ferrari to the LaFerrari.
In February 2019, at the 89th Geneva International Motor Show, Ferrari revealed its latest mid-engine V8 supercar, the F8 Tributo. Ferrari SF90 Stradale is the first ever Ferrari to feature PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle architecture, which sees the internal combustion engine integrated with 3 electric motors, 2 of which are independent and located on the front axle, with a third at the rear between the engine and the gearbox. Ferrari has produced a number of concept cars, such as the Mythos.
While some of these were quite radical, such as the Medulla, and never intended for production, others such as the Mythos have shown styling elements that were later incorporated into production models.
The most recent concept car to be produced by Ferrari themselves was the 2010 A.K.A. A number of one-off special versions of Ferrari road cars have also been produced, commissioned to coach builders by wealthy owners.
Recent examples include the P4/5 and the 612 Kappa.
The Special Projects Program, also called the Portfolio Coach Building Program, was launched in 2008 as a way to revive the tradition of past one-off and limited production coach-built Ferrari models, allowing clients to work with Ferrari and top Italian coach builders to create bespoke, bodied models based on modern Ferrari road cars.
Engineering and design is done by Ferrari, sometimes in cooperation with external design houses like Pininfarina or Fioravanti. And the vehicles receive full homologation to be road legal.
Since the creation of Ferrari's in-house styling center in 2010 though, the focus has shifted away somewhat from outside coach builders and more towards creating new in-house designs for clients. The first car to be completed under this program was the 2008 SQ1, commissioned by a Japanese business executive.
Whoa!
The second was the P540 Superfast Aperta, commissioned by an American collector.
The following is a list of special project cars that have been made public. An F430 Spider that runs on ethanol was displayed at the 2008 Detroit Auto Show.
At the 2010 Geneva Motor Show, Ferrari unveiled a hybrid version of their flagship 599.
Called the HY Hertz concept, Ferrari's hybrid system adds more than 100 horsepower on top of the 599 Fiorano's 612 HP.
Also in mid-2014, the flagship, the Ferrari was put into production.
From the beginning, the Ferrari naming convention consisted of a 3-digit unitary displacement of an engine cylinder with an additional suffix representing the purpose of a vehicle.
Therefore, Ferrari 125S had 1.5L 1496.77 cc V12 engine with a unitary displacement of 124.73 cc, whilst S suffix represented sport.
Whoa!
Other race cars also received names invoking particular races like Ferrari 166NM for Mille Miglia.
With the introduction of road-going models, the suffix Inter was added, inspired by the Scuderia Inter racing team of Igor Trauvetskoy.
Popular at that time 166 series and 2.0L 1995.02 cc engines with 166.25 cc of unitary displacement and a very diverse 250 series had 3.0L 2953.21 cc of total displacement and 246.10 cc of unitary.
Later series of road cars were renamed Europa on top of the line series America and Super America.
Until the early 1990s, Ferrari followed a 3-number naming scheme based on engine displacement and a number of cylinders. Most Ferraris were also given designations referring to their body style.
In general, the following conventions were used.
This naming system can be confusing, as some entirely different vehicles use the same engine type and body style.
Many Ferraris also had other names affixed, like Daytona, to identify them further.
Many such names are actually not official factory names.
The Daytona name commemorates Ferrari's triple success in the February 1967 24 Hours of Daytona with a 330 P4.
Only in the 1973 Daytona 24 Hours, a 365 GTD/4 run, INART, who raced Ferraris in America, ran second, behind a Porsche 911. The various Dino models were named for Enzo's son, Dino Ferrari, and were marketed as Dinos by Ferrari and sold at Ferrari dealers. For all intents and purposes, they are Ferraris. In the mid-1990s, Ferrari added the letter F to the beginning of all models, a practice abandoned after the F512M and F355. But adopted again with the F430, but not with its successor, the Ferrari 458. The famous symbol of the Ferrari race team is the Cavallino M10, prancing horse, black prancing stallion on a yellow shield, usually with the letters SF for Scuderia Ferrari, with 3 stripes of green, white and red, the Italian national colors, at the top.
The road cars have a rectangular badge on the hood, see picture at top of page, and, optionally, the shield-shaped race logo on the sides of both front wings. Close to the door.
On 17 June 1923, Enzo Ferrari won a race at the Savio track in Ravenna where he met Countess Teolina, mother of Count Francesco Baracca, an ace of the Italian Air Force and national hero of World War I, who used to paint a horse on the side of his planes.
The Countess asked Enzo to use this horse on his cars, suggesting that it would bring him good luck.
The original prancing horse on Baracca's airplane was painted in red on a white cloud-like shape, but Ferrari chose to have the horse in black, as it had been painted as a sign of grief on Baracca squadron planes after the pilot was killed in action, and he added a canary yellow background as this is the color of the city of Modena, his birthplace.
The Ferrari horse was, from the very beginning, markedly different from the Baracca horse in most details, the most noticeable being the tail, that in the original Baracca version was pointing downward.
Ferrari has used the Cavallino M10 on official company stationery since 1929.
Since the spot 24 Hours of 9 July 1932, the Cavallino M10 has been used on Alfa Romeos, raced by Scuderia Ferrari.
The motif of a prancing horse is old. It can be found on ancient coins.
A similar black horse on a yellow shield is the coat of arms of the German city of Stuttgart, home of Mercedes-Benz and the design bureau of Porsche, both being main competitors of Alfa and Ferrari in the 1930s.
The city's name derives from Studengarten, an ancient form of the German word Gestet, which translates into English as stud farm and into Italian as Scuderia.
Porsche also includes the Stuttgart sign in its corporate logo, centered in the emblem of the state of Württemberg.
Stuttgart's Russell has both rear legs firmly planted on the soil, like Baracca's horse, but unlike Ferrari's Cavallino. Fabio TaBNWNE used the Cavallino M10T on his Ducati motorbikes, as TaBNWNE was born at Lugo di Romagna like Barreca, and his father too was a military pilot during World War I. Although not part of Barreca's squadron, as is sometimes mistakenly reported.
As Ferrari's fame grew, Ducati abandoned the horse, perhaps the result of a private agreement between the two companies.
The Cavallino M10T is the visual symbol of Ferrari.
Cavallino magazine uses the name, but not the logo.
Other companies use similar logos. Aventi, an Austrian company operating over 100 filling stations, uses a prancing horse logo, which is nearly identical to Ferrari's. As does Iron Horse Bicycles and Norfolk Southern Railway. Since the 1920s, Italian race cars of Alfa Romeo, Maserati and later Ferrari and Abarth were, and often still are, painted in race red, Rosso Corsa.
This was the customary national racing color of Italy, as recommended between the world wars by the organizations that later would become the FIA.
It refers to the nationality of the competing team, not that of the car manufacturer or driver.
In that scheme, French entered cars such as Bugatti were blue, German such as Auto Union and Mercedes white, since 1934 also bear sheet metal silver, and British green such as the mid-1960s Lotus and DRM, for instance.
Ferrari won the 1964 World Championship with Jean Surtees by competing for the last two races in North America with cars painted in the US American race colors white and blue. As these were not entered by the Italian factory themselves, but by the US-based North American racing team, NART team.
This was done as a protest concerning arguments between Ferrari and the Italian racing authorities regarding the homologation of a new mid-engine Ferrari race car.
In 1963, Enzo Ferrari was approached by the Ford Motor Company about a possible buyout.
Ford audited Ferrari's assets, but legal negotiations and talks were unilaterally cut off by Ferrari when he realized that the deal offered by Ford would not enable him to stay at the helm of the company racing program.
Henry Ford too consequently directed his racing division to negotiate with Lotus, Lola, and Cooper to build a car capable of beating Ferrari on the World Endurance Circuit, eventually resulting in the production of the Ford GT40 in 1964. As the Ford deal fell through, Fiat approached Ferrari with a more flexible proposal and purchased controlling interests in the company in 1969.
Enzo Ferrari retained a 10% share, which is currently owned by his son Piero Lardi Ferrari.
Ferrari has an internally managed merchandising line that licenses many products bearing the Ferrari brand, including eyewear, pens, pencils, electronic goods, perfume, cologne, clothing, high-tech bicycles, watches, cell phones, and laptop computers. Ferrari also runs a museum, the Museo Ferrari in Maranello, which displays road and race cars and other items from the company's history. In 1997, Ferrari launched a long-term master planned effort to improve overall corporate efficiency, production and employee happiness.
The program was called Formula Uomo and became a case study in social sustainability.
It took over 10 years to fully implement and included over 200 million euros, 2008, in investment. Ferrari has had a long-standing relationship with Shell Oil.
It is a technical partnership with Ferrari and Ducati to test as well as supply fuel and oils to the Formula One, MotoGP and World Superbike racing teams.
For example, the Shell V-Power Premium Gasoline Fuel has been developed with many years of technical expertise between Shell and Ferrari. Ferrari has had agreements to supply Formula One engines to a number of other teams over the years, and currently supply the Alfa Romeo and Haas F1 teams. As of the end of 2019, the total of Ferrari built and sold cars in their whole company history is 219,062. In January 2020, the Italian carmaker said it will recall 982 vehicles for passenger airbags due to the Takata airbag recalls.
If the inflator explodes, the airbag will spew metal shrapnel at passengers, which can cause severe injury.
Every car involved will get a new passenger side airbag assembly, complete with a new inflator without the dangerous propellant. On 8 August 2022, the company recalled almost every car it sold in the US since 2005 over a potential for brake failure.
According to an NHTSA recall filing, 23,555 Ferrari models sold in America are fit with a potentially faulty brake fluid reservoir cap that may not vent pressure adequately.
The fix is simple. Roughly 30 Ferrari boutiques exist worldwide, with 2 owned by Ferrari and the rest operating as franchises.
The stores sell branded clothes, accessories, and racing memorabilia.
Clothing includes upscale and lower-priced collections for men, women, and children. Some stores include race car simulation games for entertainment. There are currently 2 Ferrari-themed amusement parks in the world. Opened in 2010, Ferrari World Abu Dhabi is the first Ferrari-branded theme park in the world and boasts 37 rides and attractions.
Located on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, it is home to the world's fastest roller coaster, Formula Rossa, and a dynamic coaster with one of the world's tallest loops, Flying Aces.
Opened in 2017, Ferrari Land in PortAventura World Resort is the second such Ferrari-themed amusement park in the world after Ferrari World Abu Dhabi.
With 16 rides and attractions, it is home to Europe's fastest and highest vertical accelerator coaster, Red Force.
And finally, we got some breaking news headlines. The 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh War was an armed conflict in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding territories 2 years ago.
The 2021 Taliban Offensive, also known as the Summer Offensive, was a military offensive by the Taliban insurgent group and other allied militants against the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan that led to the fall of the republic, based in Kabul, and marked the end of the nearly 20-year-old war in Afghanistan that had begun following the United States invasion of the country.
And Elizabeth II, Queen of the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms, and the longest reigning British monarch, died at the age of 96 at Balmoral Castle in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. The 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh War was an armed conflict in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding territories.
It was a major escalation of an unresolved conflict over the region, involving Azerbaijan, supported by Turkey and foreign mercenary groups, and Armenia. and Armenia, along with a breakaway Republic of Artsakh, with an Armenian ethnic majority but internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan.
The war lasted for more than a month and resulted in Azerbaijan victory after ceasefire agreement signed with Armenia ceding land near Nagorno-Karabakh.
The defeat in war ignited protests in Armenia calling for the resignation of government.
Post-war skirmishes continued in the region, including substantial clashes in 2022. The fighting began on the morning of 27 September 2020 with an Azerbaijan offensive along the line of contact established in the aftermath of the First Nagorno-Karabakh War, 1988 to 1994. With a primary goal of reclaiming the less mountainous districts of southern Nagorno-Karabakh, which were easier to take than the region's well-fortified interior.
In response, Armenia and Artsakh introduced martial law and total mobilization, while Azerbaijan introduced martial law, a curfew on partial mobilization.
Turkey provided military support to Azerbaijan, although the extent of this support has been disputed.
Turkey's involvement is thought to have been an attempt to extend its sphere of influence, both by giving Azerbaijan the upper hand in the conflict and by marginalizing Russia's influence over the region. The war
was marked by the deployment of drones, sensors, long-range heavy artillery and missile strikes, as well as by state propaganda and the use of official social media accounts in online information warfare.
In particular, Azerbaijan's widespread use of drones was seen as crucial in determining the conflict's outcome.
Numerous countries and the United Nations strongly condemned the fighting and called on both sides to de-escalate tensions and resume meaningful negotiations.
Three ceasefires, brokered by Russia, France, and the United States, failed to stop the conflict.
Following the capture of Shusha, the second largest city in Nagorno-Karabakh, a ceasefire agreement was signed between the President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev, the Prime Minister of Armenia Nikol Pashinyan, and the President of Russia Vladimir Putin. Ending all hostilities in the area from 10 November 2020.
The President of Artsakh, A.K.A, also agreed to end hostilities.
Under the agreement, the warring sides kept control of the areas they held within Nagorno-Karabakh at the time of the ceasefire, while Armenia returned the surrounding territories it had occupied since 1994 to Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan will also gain transport communication to its Nakhchivan exclave bordering Turkey and Iran.
Approximately 2,000 Russian soldiers have been deployed as peacekeeping forces along the Latin corridor connecting Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, with a mandate of at least 5 years.
Following the end of the war, an unconfirmed number of Armenian prisoners of war were captive in Azerbaijan, with reports of mistreatment.
Despite calls for their immediate release by the EU and international organizations, Azerbaijan has filed criminal charges against them.
Armenia filed a case against Azerbaijan at the International Court of Justice in September 2021, with hearings taking place in October 2021 in The Hague.
The war has been referred to as the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War and has been called the 44-Day War in both Armenia and Azerbaijan. In Armenia and Artsakh, it has been called the Second Artsakh War, Patriotic War, and the Fight for Survival. In Azerbaijan, it has been called the Second Karabakh War and Patriotic War.
The Azerbaijan government referred to it as an Operation for Peace Enforcement and Counter-Offensive Operation.
It later announced it had initiated military operations under the code name Operation Iron Fist. The 2021 Taliban offensive, also known as the Summer Offensive, was a military offensive by the Taliban insurgent group and other allied militants against the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan that led to the fall of the republic, based in Kabul, and marked the end of the nearly 20-year-old war in Afghanistan that had begun following the United States invasion of the country.
The Taliban victory had widespread domestic and international ramifications regarding human rights and proliferation of terrorism.
The offensive included a continuation of the bottom-up succession of negotiated or paid surrenders to the Taliban from the village level upwards that started following the February 2020 U.S.-Taliban deal. The offensive began on 1 May 2021, coinciding with the withdrawal of the United States' 2,500 troops in Afghanistan and those belonging to other international allies.
Large numbers of armed civilians, including women, volunteered with the Afghan army in defense, while some former warlords, notably Ismail Khan, were also recruited.
Despite this, the Taliban managed to make significant territorial gains in the countryside, increasing the number of districts it controlled from 73 to 223 in the first 3 months of the offensive.
On 6 August, the Taliban launched an assault on the provincial capitals, with most of the towns surrendering without a fight, culminating with victories in weeks-long battles of major cities Herat, Kandahar and Lashkargah on 13 August.
On 15 August, President Ashraf Ghani fled the country and the Taliban captured the Afghan capital Kabul without resistance. Thus, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan's government fell, resulting in the de facto takeover of the country and the reinstatement of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan.
The Taliban's takeover came as a surprise to many governments, including those of the United States and their allies, Russia and others.
Factors prior to May 2021 included the Taliban's effective use of online social media, its strategical choice of attacking northern provinces, and the Taliban's freedom of movement on the main Afghan highways that resulted from the Afghan National Security Forces, ANSF, following the U.S. recommended strategy of sacrificing rural areas in favor of defending key urban centers.
Factors in the ANSF loss to the Taliban included the February 2020 and April 2021 drops in U.S. support, in which technical, proprietary software and logistics support, in particular aerial support, that the ANSF had been trained to depend on, were suddenly removed.
Errors in U.S. coalition training of the ANSF were seen as a factor, along with Afghan police extorting locals and military officers funding themselves by inventing ghost soldiers in the months of unpaid ANSF salaries that followed the April 2021 switch in ANSF salary management to Afghan military administration.
Cronyism in ANSF military appointments and President Ashraf Ghani's inability to create an effective national consensus and convince local warlords were also seen as key processes of the ANSF's defeat.
Afghans are also more loyal towards their traditional ethnic, tribal and even familial ties than they are to a central government in Kabul, which the provincial Taliban commanders exploited to negotiate surrender of many troops.
In the long term, the American invasion of Iraq and its shifting in focus to that region has also been cited as a reason for the Taliban's resurgence in the mid to late 2000s.
In September 2020, over 5,000 Taliban prisoners, including 400 accused or convicted of major crimes such as murder, were released by the Afghan government as part of a U.S.-Taliban deal between the United States and the Taliban.
According to Afghanistan's National Security Council, many of the released prisoners who were experts returned to the battlefield and strengthened the Taliban's hand.
Also, by the time of Taliban's final offensive, most of the Afghan provincial governors had cut deals with the militants to switch sides and join the Taliban.
A senior Afghan Interior Ministry official, quoted by the Washington Post, said that Taliban have recruitment teams that reach out to Afghan officials and push them to join the Taliban.
He said that Afghan government suspects that a long list of governors might have Taliban ties. And finally, on 8 September 2022, at 15:10 o'clock British Summer Time, Elizabeth II, Queen of the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms, and the longest reigning British monarch, died at the age of 96 at Balmoral Castle in Aberdeenshire, Scotland.
Her death was publicly announced at 18:30 o'clock British Summer Time.
She was succeeded by her eldest child, Charles III. The Queen's death set in motion Operation London Bridge, a collection of plans including arrangements for her funeral, including Operation Unicorn, which set protocols for the Queen's death occurring in Scotland.
The United Kingdom observed a national mourning period of 10 days.
The Queen lay in state in Westminster Hall from 14 to 19 September, during which time an estimated 250,000 people queued to pay their respects. A state funeral service was held at Westminster Abbey on 19 September, followed by a committal service at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle.
The Queen was interred within King George VI Memorial Chapel at St. George's.
The occasion of her state funeral was a public holiday in the UK and several Commonwealth states.
The state funeral was one of the United Kingdom's most watched special events, surpassing the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton, the previous most watched royal event of the 21st century.
The Queen had been in good health for most of her life but began to decline after the death of her husband, Prince Philip, on 9 April 2021.
The most visible sign of this was that the Queen began to use a walking stick for public engagements in October 2021.
On 20 October, the Queen stayed overnight in King Edward VII's Hospital in central London, requiring scheduled visits to Northern Ireland and the COP26 summit in Glasgow to be cancelled.
She also suffered from a sprained back in November, which prevented her from attending the 2021 National Service of Remembrance.
In February 2022, during the COVID-19 pandemic in England, the Queen was one of several people at Windsor Castle to test positive for COVID-19.
Her symptoms were described as mild and cold-like, and she later commented that the disease does leave one very tired and exhausted.
The monarch's health became a cause of concern to commentators at this time. The Queen was said to be feeling well enough to resume her official duties by 1 March 2022 and attended the service of Thanksgiving for Prince Philip at Westminster Abbey on 29 March.
Despite this, the Queen did not attend several appointments over the following months, including the annual Commonwealth Day service in March, the Royal Maundy service in April, the state opening of Parliament in May, and the National Service of Thanksgiving for her Platinum Jubilee in June.
During the Jubilee, the Queen also suffered discomfort after standing during Trooping the Colour and was largely confined to balcony appearances during the celebrations. 2 days before her death, on 6 September 2022, the Queen accepted the resignation of Boris Johnson and appointed Liz Truss to succeed him as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. These meetings took place at Balmoral Castle rather than their usual location at Buckingham Palace.
On 7 September, she was scheduled to attend an online meeting of the Privy Council of the United Kingdom to swear in new ministers in Truss's government, but this was cancelled after she was advised to rest by doctors.
The Queen's final public statement, issued that same day, was a message of condolences for the victims of a mass stabbing incident in Saskatchewan, Canada. The Queen died at 15:10 o'clock British Summer Time on 8 September.
Her death was publicly announced 3 hours later at 18:30 o'clock.
The death certificate, which was made public on 29 September, stated the cause of death as old age.
Elizabeth II was the first British monarch to die in Scotland since James V in 1542.
Members of the royal family traveled to Balmoral Castle throughout the day.
Prince Charles arrived at 10:30 o'clock and was met by Princess Anne, who was already staying with the Queen.
Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, also traveled to Balmoral from the Birkle estate.
Charles and Anne were with the Queen when she died.
Prince William, Prince Andrew, Prince Edward, and Sophie, Countess of Wessex, left RAF Norfolk on board a flight to Aberdeen Airport and arrived at Balmoral shortly after 17 o'clock, while Prince Harry, who had traveled alone and departed later than the other family members, arrived at Balmoral at 20 o'clock. Catherine and Meghan did not join them. Prime Minister Liz Truss is believed to have been informed of the Queen's declining health that morning by the Cabinet Secretary, Simon Case, and received an update at 12 o'clock.
The leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, was informed by a note passed to him by Deputy Leader Angela Rayner during a speech he was giving in the House of Commons.
At 12:30 o'clock, Buckingham Palace made a public announcement expressing concern for the Queen's health. The Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, made a brief statement of good wishes in response. Truss was informed at 16:30 o'clock that the Queen had died, and the royal family announced her death 2 hours later via newswires and a post on Twitter.
The statement read:
The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow.
A notice with the same statement was affixed to the railings outside Buckingham Palace and posted on the royal family website. BBC One continuously covered the Queen's condition from 12:40 o'clock after the first official statement, and special reports were also run on ITV, Channel 4, and Channel 5.
British television announcements of the Queen's death began at 18:31 o'clock, when news presenter Hugh Edwards read the royal family's statement during a live broadcast on the BBC News Channel and BBC One.
At 18:32 o'clock, the presenters of BBC Radio 4 and BBC Radio 5 live made similar announcements.
On LBC, Andrew Marr briefly lost his composure and became emotional while announcing the Queen's death.
After the announcement, the Union flags at Buckingham Palace and 10 Downing Street were lowered to half-mast.
At Balmoral Castle, the royal standard of the United Kingdom was lowered and then raised again as the new king was present.
The Royal Banner of Scotland was lowered to half-mast at the Palace of Holyrood, as was the Welsh flag at Cardiff Castle.
Huge crowds gathered outside royal residences, and rainbows were seen above Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. Here's the video clip from announcement of the death of the Queen on the BBC's television channels, read by Hugh Edwards.
The BBC is interrupting its normal programmes to bring you an important announcement. This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. BBC Television is broadcasting this special programme reporting the death of Her Majesty the Queen.
That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell button so you don't miss out any of the new videos, and we will see you in episode 6.